This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com, your place to explore the game.
Hi, I'm Bruce Richard, and we're at Gen Con 2015, and this is my Nissa Vastwood Seer deck. So the commander for the deck is Nissa Vastwood Seer. The whole purpose of the deck is drawing out more lands and then taking advantage of the fact that you're drawing all of these lands and that the lands are already in play. Nissa does a great job with this. As the game progresses, as soon as Nissa hits the battlefield, I'm going to be dropping another land to flip her. And when she flips, it's Nissa Sage Animist. For the most part, I'm not looking at her ultimate ability, and I'm rarely looking at the -2. I think Nissa's at her best when she is, when you're using her +1 ability and essentially drawing 2 cards a turn, whether it's a land or another card. Nissa's been great. I'm not worried about protecting her so much, that's why I'm not really worried about the -2 ability. If the deck works as expected, I've always got enough mana to recast her again and again and then draw more lands, which is sort of what the rest of the deck is looking for. There's 4 non-basics. The Myriad Landscape, which makes sense for a monocolored deck and lets me get the 2 lands out. Treetop Village, another creature for a deck that isn't super heavy on creatures, so it works out fairly well. Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, with all the green it costs and the mana, Nykthos works out fairly well. Oran-Rief the Vastwood, there's a small counter token theme in the deck, so Oran-Rief is just another way to add to that. The basics, there's 36 forests, nothing too exciting here. Major theme of the deck is searching for forests and getting them into play as fast as possible. The exploration, obviously it's handy if I can get 2 lands into play in 1 turn. You'll see a few other cards that take advantage of this. There's Barrow Fist of Krosa, obviously no grandeur, but his ability to give the pump to my creatures when a forest comes into play works out fairly well, especially when I can get 2 or 3 forests in at a time. Wood Elves, we're looking through a lot of the cards that are going to let me search for forests. Well, Wood Elves is one of the more obvious ones. There's Cultivate. This is Pilgrimage. I haven't had a chance to hit the Spellmaster yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Veteran Explorer. Everybody loves Veteran Explorer. Sword of the Animist. I wanted to try it out because the ability to dig again and again and again for a basic land is just a wonderful thing. In the handful of games I've played so far, the Animist has been an all-star and well worth it. Perilous Forays. This is just another way to search for your land. I'm just about ready to drop this card. I don't tend to run a lot of creatures. There's a handful of ways to make token creatures in the deck, but the Forays is losing a creature just to go and dig for another forest isn't proven to be worthwhile. Kodama's Reach, Rampant Growth, Yavimaya Elder. I also like a little card draw with my forest search. The Budoka Gardener, I'm really not interested in flipping him. So ideally if I can get him out early and tap him to get as many lands out as I can, that's great. If he flips, he flips. But I'm looking for primarily the first half the card. Garruk Wildspeaker isn't really searching, but the ability to untap 2 lands, especially earlier on, lets me ramp up into a lot of the other spells. Producing a 3/3 green beast token is also handy in the deck, as you'll see as we go along. And who doesn't love a little bit of overrun in your deck? Harrow. The Oracle of Mul Daya. The deck doesn't offer a whole lot of surprises. There's a handful of cards that it's a shame that when you flip them over and everyone gets to see what you're about to put in your hand, but for the most part, the deck operates pretty much with what's on board and everyone's knowledge that you're probably going to be looking for another forest. So I don't feel like that's too big a loss. Sakura-Tribe Elder. The Realm Seekers, I haven't had a chance to really put this to use. We'll get a sense of, I mean, obviously this only works later in the game with the 6 mana cost, but I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how well this works out. Of course, our Crufix, just another great card. Viridian Emissary.
Pretty sure that resolves how many
Solemn. He's relatively straightforward. I included a couple of cards that just tap for mana. I'm not necessarily sure if this is going to work out. The Scorned Villager has been okay. Obviously, as the game progresses, you're rarely going to be able to flip the Scorned Villager, but early on, I have been able to do it a couple of times. So, I tip it and task for 2 green mana. It's been working out all right. Soul Ring. Actually, I'm probably going to be removing Soul Ring. It's the deck is looking to put forests into play. Having an extra mana early on is fine, but it's just not that special. I have a landfall theme for obvious reasons, with all of the forests coming into play. The Lotus Cobra has worked out fairly well. Adventuring Gear, just unfortunately I haven't been able to hit that during a game. I'm looking forward to seeing how well this one works out, especially with a number of cheaper creatures in the deck. Rampaging Baloths, just if I'm going to be dropping as many lands as I am, it doesn't make sense not to include this guy. And again, token creatures, I've got a little bit of a theme going on in the deck. If I'm going to have a token creature theme and be dropping a bunch of lands, Avenger of Zendikar is just a must for the deck. My removal package, it's very heavy on artifact and enchantment removal. My particular group runs a lot of artifacts and enchantments, so having your removal package focused on that is probably a better plan. For everyone else, that may not be the case, but for me, I've got Krosan Grip, the Ainok Survivalist, which has worked out really well. It also adds to the counter theme of the deck. I've really been happy with this card. Reclamation Sage, Creeping Mold. I try not to use this for artifact enchantment removal and focus in on whatever ugly land is coming in. Bane of Progress has been an all-star for me. I've had a number of games where I've managed to get 10 or 15 counters onto the Bane. Acidic Slime. I included Freya-Elise in the package, primarily because, for the most part, what I'm looking to do with Freya-Elise is to destroy a target artifact or enchantment. Getting a card draw will be nice. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but primarily I'm looking to destroy artifacts and enchantments. By the time I can afford to put Freya-Elise into play, I'm not as excited about all of the 1/1 Llanowar creatures Llanowar elves that it's going to create, but there will be times when I'm happy to see those start to come into play. Nev's Disc, just a handy way to get things restarted. Wave of Vitriol, I put it in the deck because I wanted to see how it ran, and it has been great. Getting rid of the artifacts and enchantments is wonderful, but surprisingly for me, the ability to remove non-basics has been what really counts for this. So many decks are loaded with non-basics, so just forcing them to reboot and play only basic lands has been great. And it's also been a way for me to get a couple more lands into play myself by getting rid of some of my own non-basics, and that's usually hit a landfall trigger or given me some other benefit. So, the Great Aurora, another card I wanted to try in a deck that's going to be loaded with mana. Haven't had a chance to play it yet, so the jury is still out on this one. Now I'm looking more into some of the card draw the deck offers. I went with Primordial Sage. As I said, I've got a number of counter token producers in the deck, so having a way to draw cards will be handy. Green Sun Zenith. So far, it's been pretty good. It's Green Sun Zenith is almost comical when you're running a deck, or playing with a deck that you've only played a couple of times, because you're left looking at your Zenith, trying to determine what card you're actually going to go find. Garruk Primal Hunter. I'm looking at again mostly for the -3 card draw ability. However, getting the 3/3 beast token, that's nice, and hey, if I can get a 6/6 worm creature token every once in a while, I won't complain about that either. Genesis Wave for obvious reasons. In a handful of the games that I've had so far, I've had upwards of 15 to 17 lands available, so the Genesis Wave can get fairly big. Howl of the Night Pack, just another way to get a handful of tokens in play. Sylvan Offering.
Yes, I know.
Sylvan Offering got into the deck because hey, I got to do the preview for the card. However, in the end, it's been working out fairly well. I've had a couple of games where it was easy to pick a single other opponent who was happy to share in the bounty. Beacon of Creation. We'll wait and see. I still haven't had a chance to actually cast it in a game yet. Jade Mage, it's just a great place to put the extra mana that I'm producing every turn. The ability to just create as many saplings as I have mana is a wonderful thing. Doubling season, between the planeswalkers in the deck and the token producers and the +1/+1 counters in the deck, there's just no reason not to be running this card. Chain Veil. I included the Chain Veil mostly because I had included a handful of planeswalkers and wanted to try it out. It's not proving to be quite as good a card as I'd hoped it would be. Too many times I'm trying to play it with only one planeswalker in play, and definitely risking leaving myself to losing 2 a turn if someone gets rid of my planeswalker. It'll stay for now, but it's one I'm watching it for.
That's pretty good.
Praetor's Council, just another card that I wanted to try out and see where see how it would work with the deck. I'm again looking forward to seeing how this one works out. Terastodon, always a nice bit of removal, and can always end up targeting my own lands if I have extra. The Druidic Satchel, sort of an all-purpose card that gives me a little bit of everything.
Knock me down a fair way.
Scavenging Ooze, because I always like to take it if I can. I like to always include at least some way to mess with my opponent's graveyards, and if I'm not drawing cards out of their graveyards, then let's try and make sure they're not doing it either. Eternal Witness. The Omnivore, unfortunately, so far early on, the Omnivore just draws far too much attention. The idea that everybody's going to get hit if one person can't deal with it, it's not something that's going to stick around. Hornet Queen, who doesn't love a handful of flying insects with Death Touch. The Primeval Bounty. It's a card that just seems to do something all the time, no matter what you're drawing, and it fits with pretty much every theme that I have in the deck already. Scoop Mob, for obvious reasons. I should have my 5 lands by turn 5, so I expect him to get huge quickly. The Lifeblood Hydra gives me, between the life gain and the card draw, based on how much mana I have, and that shouldn't be an issue. I should be seeing huge jumps with the Lifeblood Hydra. For the Masked Admirers, it hasn't worked quite as well as I'd hoped it would. I suspect this will be something that's on a chopping block. I wanted to see how it would go and how often I was going to be running this, especially when I figured that I would almost always have the extra mana to pay the 2 green. It just hasn't been the all-star I was looking for. Dungrove Elder, just for the obvious, the 36 forests and plenty of ways to search for it. And finally, Creeper Hulk. I've got a handful of token creatures that will come out as 1/1s, and with the amount of mana that I have, shouldn't be that hard to turn them all into 5/5s and give them trample.
Thanks for watching CMDR decks. Please watch and favorite.